my friend, my agent Pam, sent me down to North Carolina about a year ago. I was touring with Bob Franke down there. And we got to spend 3 days in Raleigh, North Carolina. And it was kind of a midweek thing, and we had a house concert there. And then a couple extra days. And so we got to hang out with Bet and Bill Paget, whose house we were staying at there. And Bill took us to a cemetery there in town one morning. It's called the Oberlin Village Cemetery. And he and a group of other neighbors had been working on restoring the cemetery. It's an old freed slave cemetery that had gotten totally overgrown over the years with brambles and trees that had fallen in a hurricane. It was just so that you could not even walk into this graveyard at all. You couldn't step foot into it. It was so bad. And they decided they were going to clear it out. So they started working every single Saturday for 2 years. They went in to clear it. And so they offered to take us to see the cemetery while we were down there. And I grew up across the street from a cemetery. I really love them. And this was just a really amazingly wonderful one. So this song came out of that visit to the Oberlin Village Cemetery. And you will hear in it quotes from a lot of the gravestones in there. One that's very common that I saw on several of the stones was "Gone but Not Forgotten." And so that became the refrain and the title of the song. But then there was another that I had never heard that I used as a second and fourth line refrain: "Gone to a brighter home where grief cannot come." And then there was one that you'll hear as the entire last verse, word for word, came off one of the gravestones. And it starts out, "We're loyal hearts and true." So you'll know when you get to that. That's all directly word for word off a stone. There's one of the people that I saw who was buried in there was a man by the name of John Dunston. And I was intrigued by his stone, mostly because there was very little on it to tell me anything about him. But the dates of his birth and death showed me that he had lived probably about half his life as a slave before the Civil War. And it was just about the midway point of his life at the end of the Civil War. So I was intrigued about what his life was like and how it must have changed then. So he comes into this song partially as himself, but also partially as kind of an archetypical figure. I think Black History Month is far too short. I think it should be all the time. And I think that especially up north, I know growing up in Vermont, we didn't really think about the contribution of the Africans who came to this country against their will and built so much of the country. And so he partially appears archetypically as I made him a brickmaker because of so many of the slaves and afterwards freed slaves were brickmakers in the Raleigh area. You can see their handiwork if you travel down there in the historical buildings. John Dunston rose before the dawn, gone to a brighter home. He burned the kiln to pass sundown with grief cannot come. Gone, not forgotten. He slaved for his master half his span, on to a brighter home, the other half a freed man, where grief cannot come. Gone, not forgotten. Oberlin Village in brambled row, on to a brighter home, is tended by 4 black crows, where grief cannot come. Unforgotten. In a sunken grave, John Dunston lies, gone to a brighter home, as city traffic crumbles by, where grief cannot come. Gone, forgotten. Soft shade of oak and maple tall, gone to a brighter home, or shadowed by a towering wall, where grief cannot come. God's most holy sight. Gone forgotten. Thanks.